Welcome back to the Changing the Perception of Sales podcast, and we are joined again by Robin, but this time, Robin, to talk about objections that occur or come up later on in the sales process. For anyone that's just tuning in, on the first episode of this mini-series, we talked about how to deal with smoke screens, fob-offs, objections you get early on. Now we want to look at the ones that probably come up later on in the sales cycle or sales process. So, Robin, I'll throw it over to you first of all. These objections that come up later on in the sales process, maybe post-discovery, demo, maybe even negotiation stage. Talk to us about what these are and maybe why they come up.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We can take away the fact that they might be smoke screens or fob-offs. You know, the person is engaged with us at some level, and we're going later down the line. So what is it now that's causing the hesitation? There's lots of upstream areas that we could look at we're going to talk about prevention, I know, in another episode. But ultimately, if someone is objecting to you, and it's perfectly normal, and I don't think you'll ever get many sales processes which go without a hitch. It's uncertainty. There's something that might logically sound good, but isn't quite clicking, and it's about finding out what is that missing puzzle piece that makes someone feel certain. Yeah, this is 100%. I've got to use these guys. I've got to buy this. I've got to do whatever the product or service is for. So uncertainty is what's going through that person's mind at that moment in time.
Yeah. More
often than not.
How do we deal with uncertainty? And sometimes, how do we determine that it's uncertainty? Because it might not be evidently clear, or the prospect might not be really open with us about how uncertain they might be.
Yeah. I think we ask. Really. Like we can assume that. And so there's what I teach my clients is that at some point in the conversation where we've eliminated smoke screens, objections are going to fall into one of two buckets. They're either going to be logic-based or emotion-based. Simple as that. So if there's a logic-based objection, there is a logistical reason why we can't move forward. So if someone says, I'm not the right person, it literally means they do not have the authority. They are not the right person. There's nothing you can do about that. And it's an upstream issue, probably talking to the wrong person. The emotional objection, on the other hand, is that they might logically agree that everything that you've proposed to them would work. You've shown them all the data, all the case studies, all the testimonials. They've kind of been agreeing with you the whole time. But there's something internally that's holding them back. Like, are they ready to take on that responsibility? Do they feel confident enough to go to the CFO and ask for the budget? Because that's them putting their financial reputation on the line. So I teach people that, you always assume that the objection is logical until you know otherwise. So you always run with it. You always take the objection kind of at face value until you realise that actually, no, it's a them problem. And then you can go down the more like reframing and try and actually help them with their mindset and empower them to be certain.
Yeah. What's that journey like from determining from initially starting with logic to emotion? At what point do you go, this is an emotive or an emotional objection?
Yeah. I isolate the objection. So I'd ask you, we'll go through some examples in a moment, but broadly, if that objection wasn't in place, so for example, someone says, I haven't got the budget, my response to that is totally understand that if money wasn't an issue, if you did have the budget and your CFO signed you a budget to use as you wish, would this be something that would work for you? So what we're looking for is, 100% it would be. So now we know that it might not be the budget that's the issue. Or if they say, maybe, but we know there's more to it. And we need to find out, what's the deepest reason they're not willing to go ahead, if that makes sense. So you kind of play this hypothetical game of, if that weren't the issue though, do you think that our services would help you with X or Y? And we're looking for 100%. And then you can just deal with that objection. But if there's more to it, we've got to uncover all of those objections and then figure out which one's at the deepest level first. Otherwise, you'll just deal with one objection and you'll just get another and you'll get another, and they'll all be more vague and ambiguous than the last because you're not dealing with the root cause of that uncertainty.
Yeah. Okay. Some of the objections then, we'll come on to it now. So budget is one that you've mentioned. yes, that could come up later on, despite the fact that we've probably always been taught to qualify budget early on, but often it can come up at the end, and not everything, sometimes there is budget for. Budget gets found and created for a lot of products and services. I need to speak to someone else, or I need to get a sign off. I'll come back to you, or next quarter, 6 months, a year down the line. So there's typically a few objections that come up. Let's go with a need to speak to someone else, or I need to get a sign off from someone else. Let's say, just hypothetical situation, you've completed demo stage. Seems like there's an element of interest there. You kind of talked about commercials and what the next steps and getting signed up would be, and that's when I just need to get sign off. I need to speak to someone else. Yeah. How would you deal with that objection?
Okay, cool. So first I'm thinking, is it a logic-based or emotional objection? Let's assume it's logic and this person does not have the authority to sign off on it. Like if they did, they could lose their job. That's fair enough, right? So I'll assume it's logic, but I'll test it by isolating that objection. So I might say, yeah, totally makes sense. We spoke about that in an earlier episode about just diffusing it and playing along a little bit. Totally makes sense. Yeah, I get there's going to be other people involved. Humour me. If this were just your decision, and like your boss is like, Carl, do what you want, would you go for something like this?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think it's great.
Well, why'd you say that then?
I just think it'll add a lot of value to our team. I think it'll solve some of the problems that we've been having. It seems like a great solution.
You mentioned some of those problems. What were they?
They were lack of connect rates, not getting through to enough people, not having enough conversations on the sales floor.
Yeah, cool. So now what I'm doing is I'm actually finding out, do you see value in this? So provided you can give me a good quality answer and you can reiterate the problems and how I might be able to solve them for you, I know that you get it. I know that you understand it. I know that you see the value, and I'm starting to think, okay, cool. Is there legitimacy in this? I've got to speak with someone. Now I might ask you, okay, so aside from you, who is it that kind of like really cares about solving those issues? Like who is it that needs to see this?
Oh, Steve really cares about this.
Do you think he will?
I think so, yeah.
What if he doesn't though? Like what if he doesn't see the value in it? Is it like dead or?
No, it wouldn't be dead, but it'd be more difficult to get over the line.
Cool. So I'm now just figuring out like what is the actual, like, is it a one above all type stakeholder, or is it just some sort of influencer? And he's just kind of digging, like you hit the nail on the head earlier, like if you're getting I'm not the right person or some variation of that at the later stage, something probably has gone wrong, like upstream. Yeah. No. And you've invested a lot of time. It doesn't mean we should give up. It just means we've got to figure out like who's involved and what's involved and what kind of message are you going to send back to Steve. I kind of get the impression now that you would really sell this internally, and I know who and I know why, and I can work with that rather than just go, okay, well let me know and then wait, which is unfortunately a trap that we've all been in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's use that exact same example then. So you ask the question, the hypothetical, if it was your decision, what would you do? What if my answer was weaker, or you weren't satisfied with the level of detail in my answer? Where would you maybe go with that objection then?
I need to figure out like where I haven't stacked that value, because now I'm feeling more certain that you're not gonna push this internally. You're not gonna bounce from this call that we're on right now into your C-level's office and say, guys, we've got to use Robin for sales training. Like you're not going to do that if you give me a weak answer. So I got to explore that. I got to kind of empower you as if you're going to be any type of champion. And I might just like say, like, you sound uncertain, whoever gone wrong. But let's not bring anyone in just yet. I want you to like have that to deal with. What's going wrong? What have I missed? And I'll need to build enough value before I kind of trust you to go and speak to whoever and get them threaded in. And of course, I'll get you to bring them into the conversation and think about who else am I missing? Who else would feel left out if they figured that we were talking about improving sales results or whatever. Yeah. So if you give me a weaker answer, I'm thinking, okay, I haven't done my job with you. Now, I don't know how important that is, but it must be some level of importance because I've spent enough time with you. So you're not useless to me. And I certainly don't want you to derail my efforts, because you can do that. A champion can be a saboteur as well, right? So I've got to figure out, like, what did I not do right if you're going to try and bring other people in? Otherwise, you'll just go into your boss's office, go, I think we should look at this. And at the first internal objection, you'll just go, okay. You'll just give up.
Yeah.
So I need to build that value with you first. If you're anyone of importance, if that means, in the nicest possible way.
Got it. Let's do final one. It's great, this, Robin. I love it. But we'll just have to revisit this next quarter.
Okay, cool. So the first thing we do is we'll totally play along with that. Cool. Okay, that's no problem. What's happening next quarter? It sounds like that's going to be more relevant.
It's the start of our financial year. So it's just typically when we kick off and review new projects like this one.
Okay, cool. So is it a budget thing?
Not entirely, but it's harder to get budget at the end of the financial year.
Okay, cool. So I'm leaning now. Is there a budget? Is it a budget objection that you're just disguising, or is it I just want to think about it? I think these objections are almost certainly more of the emotional type rather than logic, because you're not really giving me anything sort of substantial. This is I don't think this is for us, or I'm not sure. Leave me alone. And I've gone wrong somewhere else. So I will kind of just call people out on that. It's not an urgency. Have I missed something? Or is it that you just want to go away and think about whether this is right for you? And try and nail down what is it exactly that they want to think about? But a lot of people hit people with that objection really hard. What is it you want to think about? So I might just go, okay, cool. When you say that you're reviewing in 6 months, is that you're reviewing ways to deal with this problem, or are you just going to review your options on how to deal with it? So now I'm got to sell you on the problem before I sell you on the solution, if that makes any sort of sense. What is it that you're actually reviewing? Are you kind of going to be reviewing whether to solve this? It sounds like it's not that urgent. I might pull back, see how well you... So no, we're definitely going to do something at the next year. Okay, cool. That fills me with a bit of confidence. So when you go and sort of discuss it internally, what are some of the things that you're going to be, I guess, running through your mind just to see whether I'm the right option for you? And you can share that with me, and I can figure out exactly where I need to prod, and if there's any urgency to be built, what is it? Is there someone else that you need to talk to and you're scared to tell me? Or is it a budget objection that you're not willing to tell me just yet? So that one is always a case of let's figure out what the real objection is, because people aren't just waiting to review things unless there's something underneath that. You with me?
Yeah. Brilliant. Robin, great episode on dealing with objections later on in the sales process. Pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.